Today we're going to take a more of a deeper dive into one of the integrations that we currently work with, which is known tool, Terraform out there, and how we, with our blueprints, currently communicate with Terraform, and how we take it into not just now deploying, VMs or containers. As you can see here, there's two examples of one EKS example and one actually AKS example. But now taking it more into leveraging PaaS services, right? So what if I want to go ahead and build a VM that's going to house my application, and I want to leverage RDS, right, in the backend, and start separating the components to just follow more best practices when we're talking about designing applications. So this Project Pivot Integration TF for Terraform is the one that we're going to be deploying. And if I go ahead and click on it, you'll see the application. We're going to be deploying a Java Spring website. There's an infrastructure component behind it, and as you can see here, the Java Spring website is going to be deployed in a compute instance, T2 medium, but the infrastructure service is going to be Terraform in the backend that actually goes and deploys RDS in AWS. If I go ahead and switch over to my YAML, this is all in the Torque UI, you'll see that I have my Project Pivot Integration TF YAML file, the blueprint, the master file, I would say, the main file, in which I'm deploying, specifying the cloud, I'm specifying the region, the inputs parameters that we're also going to be leveraging, and then referencing the application YAML that I want to call, which is this Java Spring website right here. And on top of that, the service YAML file that I want to call, which is the RDS MySQL YAML. So a blueprint in our documentation, in our community, you can go ahead and go over there. You'll see that the structure that we follow in the repos is, blueprint application. And then there's another folder called services where we start leveraging more of the services provided like for Terraform. If I click on this RDS MySQL YAML, you'll see that it also has the kind of Terraform right here with different inputs. And then I have a specific module that I'm calling, right? This module it's just Terraform RDS MySQL that I actually can go ahead and show you that. Let me go to my settings really quick. I'll go to my blueprint repos. I'll click on the repo. And I'm actually going to go to the root repo. And I have this Terraform -1 RDS MySQL, in which there's a main TF, right? These are all, if you're familiar with Terraform, this is pretty standard when it comes to working with Terraform. The main TF is just specifying the provider, AWS, the region, the data that we're actually getting back, the resource information, etc. Same thing when we start talking about the security group TF, the variables file information that we're also getting, and then the outputs that we're also going to be bringing into the overall environment that we're deploying, right? Since it's now a separation between the instance or the compute and the RDS, we still have to have them connect. We still have to have them communicate. We still have to let them know that, as you guys know, right, the compute needs to know the instance, the database information, all of that. And the output aspect is being used for that communication. So if I go back to my settings and I go to sandbox environments, I'm going to go ahead and do new sandbox. You'll see the options right here, Project Pivot Integration TF. I'll do next. I'm going to go ahead and give it a name. I'm actually going to give it a 2 in this case. I launch it. I'll get the congratulations. Some of the input parameters were already specified by default, because that's how we have it set it up in the blueprint. The sandbox parameter, the DB user, the DB password, and the DB name was already configured as part of the blueprint. That being said, you can always change them. We just provide default values. So if I go back to my blueprints and I click on my Project Pivot Integration TF, I do the YAML. You'll see that right here, right? The root, DB user, mask password, default value, DB name. We're just passing those parameters. But these are just default. You can change them. If you don't want to have them default, you can also remove the default value. And when the user going to go ahead and deploy this environment, then obviously they'll have to input this information. If I go back to my sandbox environment, you'll see that it's launching. I actually already launched another one because it takes about 13-15 minutes to deploy. This one was deployed about a couple of hours ago. And as you can see here, if I go into my application, this is the main application, the Java Spring website. However, if I go into my infrastructure, remember there was two aspects. It was the RDS MySQL being built by the Terraform module and the compute instance, which actually has the UI aspect of it. If something were to go wrong, right, I can go ahead and always launch the instance using Bastion SSH from here to determine what happened, right? To just do additional troubleshooting. Maybe something went wrong, maybe the deployment or the files weren't where they needed to be, etc. But if I go back to my summary and I click on the quick link that's generated, I should have my application pop up. Welcome aboard. And if I click here to test the connectivity to the database, which is in this case writing information to the database, that remember it's the RDS MySQL. If I give it a name and I give it an email, what an email, and I register. Thank you for registering. This lets me know that the communication between the instance and the RDS database is successful because it was able to register the user and the email into the database.